if you want to make money is get married.
So you moved to Israel at what age though?
If you're married with kids and you want a city, I think Jerusalem's the way to go.
Making Aliyah back then it's a little different than it is today.
You should not delay things that you're going to want to do. If these are life goals of yours.
Walk us through what that was like for you, what you remember.
Also, you're going to make the best friends you'll ever make, no matter what.
Why did you choose to Jerusalem and Pardes Chana?
I think anyone who chooses to live in Israel is just as equally Israeli, whether they're right off the boat, whether it's that couple that in the late 90s, or if you're a Sabra.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Aliyah Chronicles. I'm your host, Matthew Fleischman, and this is the podcast where we sit down with people who've made Aliyah and talk honestly about that journey. What brought them here, what's changed, and what they've learned along the way. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, somebody who I've known for over 20 years. We went to university in the States together, and it's been a long time coming, this interview. I've watched his story unfold in a way that's bold, unpredictable, and totally his own. Today I'm talking with Yoel Israel. Yoel is not your typical guest. He's a digital marketing entrepreneur, a deeply vocal advocate for Israel, and someone who's taken risks, both personally and professionally, to carve out a space here. He made Aliyah and never looked back. This episode is part one of a much longer conversation we're planning to continue. We'll get into what brought him here, how his views on Zionism and faith have shifted, and what it's like raising a family in a place that can feel both grounding and overwhelming. We also talk about showing up online, speaking out when it's not always easy, and how you balance your love of this country with the reality of its challenges. This went shorter than our usual episode, but it is packed. So let's get to our conversation. Good morning, Yoel. How are you?
I'm doing terrific, man. This setup is pretty epic. You guys don't see the awesome setup that's going on right here. 3 cameras, this whole lighting, the whole set. I thought you were going to come and DJ for the night and throw me a party.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Yeah, but they don't get to see what we see, but they get to see something better. They get to see you and I.
You've got an interesting story. Your name is Yoel Israel.
Wait, do you know my middle name?
No, I do not remember it.
Sion.
Okay. Could you?
The most Israeli or Zionist name.
So we went to school together, and for some reason, when we went to school together, I thought you were going to school from Israel. Like you had left Israel.
That's so funny.
And you're going to university.
Like
and then you're going to go back. Yeah,
right.
You were visiting. Like you were spending your 4 years going to school in the States. You hadn't actually lived in the States. I don't know why I thought that, but for some reason,
you're not
in
the
my
only
brain.
person. Also, by the way, I speak to Israelis here even, and they're like, oh, I just assumed you were Israeli. Like, I didn't know that you were American. Like, why are we having this sales conversation in English?
Why don't you said you were born in Israel, correct?
No, born and raised in Philly my entire life.
Okay.
I mean, I have extended family here on my dad's side. So I come back, summers. I went on every of those free trips that I could, or dramatically subsidized trips. Right? Were you on an API road trip? Right?
No, I went. Okay. I did Birthright.
Right. So we did that. Well, for those that don't know, we went to Temple University together, and we were in AE Pi, the fraternity together. So that's how I got to know this man. And afterwards, you went to the U.S. Army. Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm never going to see him again.
And then a few years later, I moved to Israel. So walk me through it. You're born and raised in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Went to school in Philadelphia. When did you decide to move to Israel?
When I was a little kid.
Okay.
When I was like bar mitzvah, I'm wired a little differently. I was like, I'm going to get married at 19. I'm going to move to Israel. I'm going to build a house. Okay. Yeah. Now I built a home, which we're filming at. It's a beautiful home in Pardes Chana. I moved to Israel. I didn't get married at 19. I got married at 24. So, I mean, kind of I was always knew what I wanted to do. I'm very conscious about my time. I always have been. But it doesn't mean I acted that way. At least probably not until I was married, to be honest. Probably, by the way, the best advice if you want to make money is get married. I tell people that. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of my story, man. So Aliyah Chronicles.
So you moved to Israel at what age, though?
As soon as we got married a little more than 14 years ago, As soon as we got married, we moved to Israel. That was like the deal. It was like, if you marry me, we're moving to Israel. It was non-negotiable.
And she was okay with that.
Yeah, and her mom just happened to move here kind of almost randomly. I mean, it's all from God, really, like a year before or 2 years before even. So we made Aliyah to Nachlaot in Yerushalayim. We're there for like 5 months. I was looking for work in finance. Couldn't find shit. And then so we went back to Philly for 2.5 years, and then we've been living in Pardes Chana actually exactly 11 years. Next week will be 11 years. It'll be the day after Purim.
Nice.
So like in a week, yeah.
Why did you choose to Jerusalem and Pardes Chana?
Well, Jerusalem, my mother-in-law was there.
Okay.
So it was like we lived in like it was actually such a ghetto setup. Her neighbor next door in her apartment had a separate entrance for a room, and we used that bedroom for us to live in. But we used next door, go through the hallway to use the bathroom and shower at my mother-in-law's.
Yeah.
That's how things work.
Okay.
So it became like integrated into her neighbor. They had like 4 kids, at least at the time, into their lives. And so just very like have no money. It was like 50 grand in debt, college loans, and just making it happen as a young newlywed. And then, yeah, that was Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And I love Jerusalem. And Jerusalem now is so much cooler than it is then. If you're married with kids and you want a city, I think Jerusalem's the way to go. Just the mountains, the traffic drive me nuts. So you keep in mind location. Pardes Chana, when we were living in Nachlaot, I was looking for a lot of the Anglos there that were older than us, that were already having kids. We're looking for places to move out because Nachlaot is like the best location and it's extremely spiritual. One of the reasons why I chose Pardes Chana, but there's like no space. It's a concrete jungle. And so people were talking about where would they move, Beit Shemesh, maybe new neighborhoods in Jerusalem, Ranana. And a lot of people were talking about Zichron Yaakov. And I was reading about Pardes Chana culturally, building a train to Tel Aviv, the spiritual aspect. It's like really all walks of Israelis come to life. There's a big art scene and a music scene. And I thought culturally, I was like, this place and just the values here, very like left-wing libertarian, is aligned with my values. And so so when we came back, we decided to come straight here.
All right, cool. And you said you built this house?
Yeah, man, everything.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I bought the property and then I built the house. There's like no property left to build in Pardes Chana anymore. Somehow it became extremely expensive. I was totally right about trends. It's one of the things I understand is trends. I immediately know where things are going on long-term trends. So I mean, I used to go by the way, this is how I bought real estate in Philly before when I worked at Xerox. When I went back for 2.5 years, I would go and look for real estate for cash flow to help me make Aliyah, because I knew it's not that I needed money, I needed cash flow in order to make it here, which is my advice to anyone. Any kind of cash flow, a rental unit, a few $100s a month, these things will make the entire difference of giving you a little bit of space. It's about cash flow. It's not about money. Yes. Now you're right.
I felt that.
Yeah, it's not about, right, because what's the joke? How do you make a small fortune in Israel?
How?
You bring a large one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very, very true.
Right. So that joke, and then I was introduced to Robert Kiyosaki. He's like Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he talks about cash flow and finance and assets and liabilities. And he changed the way I looked at money. And through that, it's just dramatically just changed my relationship with money and business and everything, which has been awesome. Highly recommended. So I'd go around and I would look for houses. And I had a spreadsheet and I would put little signs, posters. It looked handwritten, but it was photocopied like with color, so that everyone looked originally written. That my family, like, we moved here, and this looks like a great place for us to raise our family. And I would knock on doors; they weren't there. A house I thought was cool, I would put it in the mailbox. Someone would call me. I'd come in. I would just see places, and I was doing this for like a year, and then I came by. I was living around the corner from here, renting. And then suddenly on my walks looking for houses, there was a for sale sign.
Cool.
And I called and I entered a bidding war between me and 2 families. Now, they were asking 990,000 shekels for 430 meters, which sounds like a steal. But then it was already double than what it was a few years before. Now the land would probably be worth $2 million, right? It's got to double. Just the land, let's say, if the land was for sale. Yeah. This was 8 years ago. So wait, 9 years ago. 9 years ago, almost. And probably 8.5 years ago. 8.5 years ago. And so I was like, all right, I went to the realtor and I was like, all right, put in 875. She was like, okay, but it's not going to happen. I was like, let's just see what happens. And like the next day, she's like, okay, it's up to 890. I was like, what the hell happened? She's like, there's a bidding and there's 2 other families that really want this. It's a quiet street. You saw it. It's an amazing neighborhood. Parties Khan the shit. And I was like, all right. So then like every other day, it would go up 5,000 shekels. Someone would have 5,000, me and 3 families. When it got to like 940,000 shekels, I told them, give him the full asking price. I'll take it off the market. Like, done, 990. And then my older goes back. He says, only for $1 million. I was like, fine, whatever. And then, of course, he tried to pull a thing to get more out of me before we close, whatever. So it was 1,010,000. And part of my pride was like, well, screw you. And I was like, in 5 years, you're going to be so happy you made this decision. Don't let your pride undermine you.
Yeah.
Which has happened before and happened since. So, and then I spent the next 1.5 years, 2 years building this house and the separate office. It's huge. It's awesome. And I love it. You should see my roof. My roof is epic.
So you made Aliyah almost 15 years ago.
11. Well, yes.
The first time.
A little more than 14. Like 14. Yeah.
Yeah, almost. So what was, now making Aliyah back then is quite, I'm sure it's a little different than it is today. Walk us through what that was like for you, what you remember.
Well, we got married in November 2010, and then we were actually going to make Aliyah in December. It was already planned. We even got married legally by the state of Pennsylvania before we had our chuppah, just to like get the Aliyah process going. And then my wife actually got sick the day before. She ate like some bad spinach or something. And we did get to go on the Aliyah flight. So we joined another flight on January 3rd, 2011. And so we got on, we just got on, we landed. I mean, the whole thought process for me was like, I'm just going to make Aliyah and I'll figure it out. I think the biggest mistake people make is they think they need to get their finances in order. And you'll never get your finances in order.
No.
You have to understand, you got to go, it is a leap of faith. The entire Zionist story is miracles and leap of faith. David Ben-Gurion, he speaks about this. He mentioned this many times. And if you're not willing to have a leap of faith, just like think of the Israelites leaving Egyptian slavery. Everything was leaving. Oh no, let me go back to comfortable slave life as Egypt. The sea isn't going to split. Oh, we're going to starve. There isn't manna. All these things are leap of faith that the Jewish people continue to fail. And so I would say you got to just do things like, sometimes you got to just jump and hope that there's something there on the other end. It's a trust fall, right? In a sense. And you just got to trust everything will work out. My dad said to me once, you're not going to go homeless. Your kids aren't going to go hungry or naked. Take some chances. Because he's the exact opposite. I like taking risks. My father doesn't. And he says this is someone who he wish he did take more chances in his professional and personal life.
So you mentioned that moving to Israel was part of the deal with you and your wife.
It wasn't even a deal. It was like...
It was part of...
It was like, I'm moving... Like, if you want to get married, this is going to happen.
What was her thought process?
I don't think there was. I think her thought process was she was cool. And because her mom happened to just recently move here, I think that was kind of like, yeah, cool. She's extremely close with her father, who's in Philly.
Okay.
So that makes it a little different. Like, so that was hard. So we go back every summer almost.
All right. What were some of the challenges you guys faced when you first got here? I mean, you ended up going back for a couple of years. So what caused that? Why did you go back?
I couldn't find a job in finance. My wife wouldn't leave Jerusalem because she wanted to be near her mom. Finance pays shit here, which I have a whole rant on why we're not a local financial capital. When you have communist mayors in New York and London, like Bill de Blasio, that, and I'm like, we should be developing this here. But we have a socialist regulation, like deep state issue that prevents any kind of real reform.
Here in Israel?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very bad.
You've got a microphone if you want to rant.
Sorry. No. I will, but...
Not right now.
Not just yet.
On part 2.
Yeah, it's on part 2.
So you ended up going back. What were some of the challenges you faced when you first got here besides the job in finance? And when you first got here and then when you moved back?
Look, dude, the challenge was, I was newlywed, so everything's exciting. So I just want to say, if you're young, first off, the younger you make Aliyah, the better. The younger you get married, the better. The younger you have children, the better. You should not delay things that you're going to want to do. If these are life goals of yours, delaying them makes no sense. Just do them.
Yeah.
You know, like the thing about these aren't bucket list items. These are life goals. So just, why are you waiting? Why not make Aliyah with someone you like, with your, you know, someone you're with, someone you're building a life with? Does that make sense? So, I mean, I would just recommend to people to make Aliyah as soon as they could. Once they want to, go ahead and do it. What it was like for me, it was we were newlywed and we were like happy and everything was blissful when you're newlywed and things are new and exciting and young. And so it didn't make it easier. I mean, coming back was a financial issue. I couldn't really find anything within finance. I didn't know Israel. I had no network. In the sense, I didn't know Israel professionally. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
I didn't know about the tech ecosystem. I had no network. I knew nothing. All I could think was within my limited framing of getting something in finance because that's what I studied. I didn't understand that there's far more than that.
That makes sense. And that is one of the things I would think about people who move here right out of school. Like, oh, this is what I went to school for. So this is what I want to find a job in. It's like part of, I guess, taking that leap of faith is expand your boundaries a little bit. Yeah, see what more there is besides, oh, I went to school in this, so this is the only thing I can do.
Well, it should be going to college is a bigger leap of faith than making Aliyah.
Okay.
And I have an MBA. Yes. Like, just so you understand, like, we're also, and on top of it, like, I went all in on college, got great grades, but it's the biggest waste of time of your best years, biggest waste of money. And even worse is that, like, if you invested that time and that money, if you got a job, if you took the money you would have put into college and just invested it, I mean, you'll be worth multi-millions.
It isn't just that. It's also...
I mean, but you're also they teach you how to not think. They teach you how to only do this thing. Because look, universities were originally made just to learn and be worldly. It's not to get a degree, to get a career, right? It's kind of ironic in a way that, I don't want to get political, but full circle, it was very liberal. The liberal arts would recommend you to go to college.
Yeah.
Right? But now it's like, you know, so you can go and learn and become worldly. Somehow it's become more right-leaning. If you don't go to, it was just, the whole thing is weird. I don't trust universities. If you're going, you're already making, what happens is you're doubling down on limiting your options when you go to college. So now you're saying, I need to go because I already have the sunk cost of getting a degree in something. You're expecting now to make more because you went to college, you wasted the time, you squandered the money. I'm using those words intentionally, wasted and squandered. The STEM might be an exception, right? And then now you want to now you're limited in your career and your opportunities and your network and how you're thinking. And so that actually undermined me to get a job to stay in Israel because I limited my scope to finance because that's what I studied and I invested in and put me in debt. And so I thought that was the only way out of it. And that was like my calling. But really, you don't know who you are, what you're doing.
No.
I would just say, like, you're 18. Make Aliyah, jump in, go to the army, or jump straight into a career. This is my advice to anyone, anywhere. And then just get a job and start to learn, and you'll see things, try different things, have some hobbies, meet people, go to networking events, and you'll find what actually you may love the most, like, isn't what you studied. Because you choose when you study what? When you're like 17 usually? And
sometimes, yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, you don't know what you want to do.
I didn't know any. I came on a year course. I thought I wanted to study architecture. Okay, which you could tell I love architecture. You look at my home. But what I didn't understand, just because you don't know what you don't know. I came for a gap year. I got a scholarship for Philadelphia University, which has a great architecture program, 5-year program. Then I was here. I was like, oh, I want to study business instead. And it was only because I stepped away and met so many diverse people and what they were going to study that I understand I didn't want to do architecture. I learned that architecture is actually a pretty is better for introverts than extroverts. You know, you think you're not doing as much business when you're sitting and designing so much, right? And emailing. That's not the lifestyle that I wanted. That didn't reflect my personality. And yeah, it turns out I thought I love engineering and I thought I liked architecture. And I probably really was more interested in engineering than architecture, to be honest. Structural engineering. But here I am, marketing.
So you made Aliyah after college, after you got married. You were in your early 20s.
Yeah, I got married at 24. And so it was right after my 24. Well, I just turned 25 when we made Aliyah.
And so did you have to do any kind of service when you got here?
No, I had an exemption because my dad's Israeli. They wouldn't let me fly back to visit. because without them drafting me from 18 until whatever. So I got an exemption because I came and I was visiting because my grandfather wasn't doing well. Okay. And so I requested an exemption, like, hey, I'm here. And they gave me an exemption when I was visiting, when I was like 20 or something, 21 in college or something.
And that carried over to when you made
that was the exemption was, which I would have gladly served. When October 7th, that moment, it's like, go fight. It's like, what are you going to do? I'm running a company with 20 people. It's like, I barely use a drill, you know. And my dad's a handyman, you know.
Is that something you would tell people? I know that I've talked to a bunch of people in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Who were thinking about making Aliyah, and the service, they were worried about the service. Was that the mandatory service? You're saying, you know, as soon as you know, is that something that they should embrace?
What, the service?
Yeah.
Why not? Well, if you want to make Aliyah and be Israeli, I mean, the biggest thing I'm missing out on is the cultural things that actually come out of the military.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I didn't really understand this. I have a cousin, all right? He lives in Khadera. He's in the army. He's out now, but this was from a couple years ago. And he had back problems, all right? He can't fight, which is what he wants to do. He's not in high tech or that. It's not his brain upbringing. So he's more or less like a jobnik, right? Basically doing stuff at the army, on the base, many things, you know, sitting around most of the day. He wants to leave the army and go work because he feels he's not contributing. His father wouldn't let him. He's like, it will be harder for him to get a job. It would be harder for him to find a good woman from a good family. Then after October 7th, turns out obviously it's all the more true. Right, I was like, but he's wasting his like a year and a half left. He's wasting a year and a half, and he's dying to get out. And he has all this energy to create and do and learn and make money, and like let the poor young man go. So there's truth to it. Also, you're going to make the best friends you'll ever make, no matter what.
Absolutely,
and that's really what it comes down to. And because as fraternity brothers, you know, we went through certain, let's say, hazing and other rituals that brought us, that we had to overcome together. The military is that, but much, much crazier. Like to an extent you don't even imagine what you're missing. People are just fearing the unknown, but I think you should embrace the unknown because it's far more fun. And you should live life like an adventure. The biggest mistake Anglos make, especially Anglo-Jews and those that make Aliyah, less than make Aliyah, but they don't treat life like an adventure. Jews, they're like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go be a doctor or a lawyer or finance. You know what I mean? And then I'll get married, I'll have kids, and I'm going to the suburbs, and one of these 6 Jewish suburbs in America. You know what I mean? And and everything will be great, and I'll donate to my shul, and I already have their career planned out that their parents helped them, and I'll be making $250,000 by the time a year by the time I'm like, 40, and they like this whole thing in their mind. And by the way, it works out for many people, but that sounds very depressing because it's when your life is already decided for you, you're not living it. You're not having a life of adventure. And there's nothing like Aliyah and the army meeting new people as an adventure. And Israel being the most diverse country in the world, at least especially nationally, that you're really missing out on a really great time. If you want to stay stuck in your bubble, then stay stuck in your bubble. I mean, it's not, you think you're not in a bubble, everyone is, but you're really missing out on really doing fun and great things and getting the most out of life. The big mistake is that people think you need to get your finances in order. Finances are secondary. Live the life that you want.
And like you've shown, you can always go back for a little bit if you need to.
Yeah. But I mean, I was able to do it because I was newlywed, but like when I was so dedicated to coming back, I changed all my passwords related to Aliyah and how much money of cash flow I want by a certain date. Within 3 years, we're all related to returning Aliyah. So like you have to be obsessed. Like I can have an obsessive personality about certain things. And so I know that, right? So I know that and I lean into it. Like I use it to my advantage.
But it's also one of those, taking that first step of making Aliyah. I have a friend who made Aliyah. She made it shortly after I did, and she ended up going back. She still intends on coming back eventually, but it was one of those, making Aliyah is the first step. And then,
And by the way, if you make Aliyah and if you go back, so what?
Exactly.
So what? Because I'll tell you why, so what?
My cousin did it twice.
Hold on. I'll tell you why. You're going to regret and say, I wish I'm in Aliyah. Yeah. Like my mom, who's still in Philly. I remember my mom sent me this, it was a few years ago. She sent me this story, I don't know, J-Post or whatever, one of those, about this couple. He was like 99, she was like 95, right? They're in their 90s, mid-late 90s. It was their life goal and dream to make Aliyah, and they made Aliyah. And my mom's like, look at this beautiful story, right? Implying maybe one day she will. And I'm like, this is the most depressing story ever. It wasn't about just making Aliyah. It was about living and building it. It's about being part of our destiny, creating it. Not coming here, you know what I mean? Going to the doctor's appointments and being buried here.
Yeah.
Like, there's more to it than that. Their kids are stuck abroad, right? And their grandkids are assimilated, whatever. Like, how is this a remotely... like a happy story? I understand it was their life dream, but that's the problem when you see things and you treat them like a bucket list, is that when you treat things like a bucket list, then you're like, oh, I'll get to it eventually, and then you don't get to it. At the end of the day, I would say bucket lists are a big distraction, and you need to choose what are the 3 things I want out of my life in 5-10 years and work aggressively to go after those things. Now, you need to take your 10-year plans, shrink it down to 6 months.
Yes. We're almost out of time, but I do have a few things I want to just ask you. What was the moment that you felt you were Israeli? What was you weren't just an American who made Aliyah, but you were actually Israeli?
When I bought my plot of land.
And why?
Because I'm dealing with the bureaucracy. I'm like, I'm all in. Like, Israelis can deal with this bureaucracy. And here I am dealing with the headache of building and all the dumb regulations. I mean, so expensive, and all of the headaches and all of the horror stories you hear about. I'm very familiar with them. So, like, I really know Israel's, like, regulation and the corruption and the taxes and how these things work, and Bituach Leumi and housing. Like, I know it so well because I went there a million freaking times, going there, getting things approved, getting things modified, why they can't, how long it takes, not processing payments, send me a fax.
Yeah.
It's like, just so like I was like, guys, I'm more integrated and I put more sweat equity into this fucking place than anyone born here.
But did you have like an epiphany moment?
No.
All right.
Look, in my kishkas, I knew, like, really, we all are. Like, it's not, for me, it's about, there's a spiritual connection with the Jewish people and the land of Israel, right? It's the 2 out of the 3 pillars of Judaism.
Yeah.
And so I think just like anyone can make Aliyah and boom, they're Israeli. There's no, it's not like other nations where you may need to go and take a test and, you know, like America, get a green card, then you have to earn that, and then you get it, and there's the whole thing, which is great, and they should do that. And in a sense, you know, it's called like birthright, the trip for a reason. So I think anyone who chooses to live in Israel is just as equally Israeli, whether they're right off the boat, whether it's that couple that in the late 90s, or if you're a Sabra. Yeah, so I'm all for people jumping in and getting involved in Israel, in business, even in politics. And people say, oh, you're new. What do you, not me, tell the people, what are your opinions? What do you know? You're fresh on the boat here. And I'm like, this person left a luxury, like left the West to come to Israel. I was like, I will take this person's opinion even when I disagree with them more than many Israelis who are just trapped in this bubble that lack a little world perspective. You know what I mean? And I think Anglos are going to save Israel.
What do you say? What do you mean?
Like, okay, Israelis complain cost of living is too high.
It is, but yes.
No, it is. It's like ridiculous. Okay, my house costs housing should be half of what it is.
Oh,
okay?
absolutely, yes.
Their purchasing power parity is insane. And you go to Israel, just say they blame the government or whatever. We need more subsidies, and it doesn't help. They know the issue. Then what happens is they go abroad, and then they see a milky or cottage cheese Israeli made is cheaper abroad. Okay, yeah. And then they're like, "Why are these companies going?" I'm like, guys, they're operating because the laws are corrupt locally. And so when Americans are abroad and they see how great things are, the regulation, how easy it is to get a business license, how easy it is to hire and fire and pay things and build a house and rent and everything and do your freaking taxes. And then they come here. Or the Israelis, even in tech, that go abroad and then come back. Suddenly they're like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. The problem isn't like our problems are more than any politician or anything. We have like a deep systematic the way no one understands how things work. So at least from an economics perspective, I think the more people that have spent and built businesses and time in the West and come to Israel, these voices should be far more elevated than those that have been in Israel because they're bringing outside solutions to a problem. And our problems here, they're bringing they're not bringing solutions that work because they've been failing and failing and failing. So we need kind of an out of the box approach, which I think we're only going to get from people working in more capitalist countries than Israel.
After you made Aliyah, you came to Israel to do finance. You went back, and now you're doing completely different business than what you came to. We only have a few minutes left, but how did that start? And what are you doing now, and how did you start that?
Well, I mean, when I made Aliyah, I was working for someone in tourism, and I was doing the marketing also some on the side. And then I bumped into a friend of mine who I got my MBA with, who's from Australia, and he asked me to give him a ride to like an alumni event or something because he was on the way. He was in Ranana. And then he told me, he does like Google ads. And I was like, I already knew socials organically. And he was like, what, training me like for nothing, like 30 shekel an hour in the evening. I was like, okay, nothing else to do. So I started doing it, learning. I'm like, oh, I'm great at this. Found this a couple clients and then went out and branched on my own. So what I do marketing for technology companies. We're about 20 people full-time in Israel. We do ads, SEO, social media, influencer marketing. Now we do some video editing, a little bit out of my show. I have a new brand called, my company name is Wadi Digital. And then we built a company called Cyfluencer. It's an influencer platform for cybersecurity marketers and professionals and CISOs. And now we built Israel Tech. And that's my new brand. It's a new media brand that covers everything happening in tech in Israel on socials first with a lot of videos. So if you like this, you should check out Israel Tech.
And you can find a link to all of those in the show notes and the blog. Thank you, Yoel. I know that you've got a meeting, and thank you for taking time out of your day for sitting and talking to us about this and telling us about your unique and original and interesting Aliyah story and Olim story.
Wait, I just want to say something before I go.
Go to town.
Let me look at this camera, this one. There's 3 cameras here, by the way, which is it's like a bunch of robots are watching me. Anyway, make Aliyah. No, because you'll regret not. You'll say, if only if I would have. If not, now when. You could always make Aliyah and go back. Don't wait. If you've already made Aliyah and you watch this, send this to a family member and tell them they should make Aliyah because they'll regret it. And after all, don't they want to be near you, a family member? Be part of something bigger, help build something, be part of a destiny. It's really exciting. It's a lot of fun living here. It's never boring.
No,
it's never dull. And you feel the youth and the energy, right? We have the only population with a positive growth rate, and you feel it everywhere. It's very family centered, and you're totally going to miss out. And if not you, don't expect maybe your kids will, or you'll bring them when they're older. Just do it. You'll make it happen. If you have a business, it's tax-free for 10 years. You don't pay any taxes on your business in Israel for 10 years. So there's no reason not to. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly.
Thank you again for joining us, for sitting here with me
and
talking about it.
Anytime. Thanks for coming out and setting this up. It was a lot of fun.
That was part 1 of my conversation with Yoel. And if you know Yoel, you know there's always more to say. What I appreciated most was how open he was about the things most people are careful around: religion, politics, raising kids in Israel, and what it means to live with intention, even when the world feels like it's spiraling sideways. We've got a second half of this conversation coming soon, but even in this first half, you can hear how deeply rooted Yoel is in this country and how his Aliyah is still evolving, even years later. If this episode sparks something in you, share it, text it to someone who needs hearing it, and if you're enjoying Aliyah Chronicles, hit subscribe, leave a review, or follow us wherever you're listening. Aliyah Chronicles is a production of Briefly Distracted Media, and we've got other podcasts in the network too, like Landings and Layovers, our travel and flight deals show, or Briefly Distracted News, if you're into opinionated solo rants with brains and bite. Don't forget to connect with us on socials. On Instagram, you can find us at Aliyah Chronicles Pod, and you can find us by searching on both Facebook and X for Aliyah Chronicles. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.